So, framing the conversation around why diversity matters, it is my pleasure to introduce our first speaker. Our first speaker is Ollie Folayan, and Ollie is a chartered chemical engineer working in the energy industry and chairperson of the award-winning AFBE UK Scotland and co-founder of AFBE UK. And if you don't know what AFBE stands for, it's the Association for Black and Minority Ethnic Engineers. He graduated with Bachelor of Engineering in Chemical Process Engineering with Fuel Technology, and then earned a doctorate, PhD, in Fuels and Combustion. In 2018, Ollie Folayan was accepted into the Fellowship of the Institution of Chemical Engineers and has championed successful outreach programs such as Making Engineering Hot, Next Gen Scotland, Transition and Real projects, and has co-authored 2 publications on the influence of role models in the transition from academic study to the workplace and on the sustainability of the engineering profession in the UK. Clearly very accomplished, Ollie has also been involved with community initiatives through organisations such as Shell and the Royal Academy of Engineering. He's a member of the All Energy Diversity and Inclusion Task Force set up in 2019 by Oil and Gas UK. Ollie, we couldn't have a better speaker to open Reflect this morning, and we're very excited to hear what you've got to share with us this morning. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for that, Jacqueline, and thanks to Isabel and everyone who's invited me to be part of this program. I'm going to start with saying that there's a greater demand for engineering talent than there is talent available. And we know that based on all of the studies that we see. We also know that engineering companies raise something like £456 billion every year. And Engineering UK projected that an additional 27 billion per year can be raised through engineering companies if they can get the people. The main obstacle that they identified have to do with diversity and the areas of education. And so we believe that it's one of the reasons why AFBE as an organization began. So we started in 2007, and it was a conversation between myself and my sister, who I usually refer to as my boss, which we talk about the lack of talent that there is within the industry. We could see within our context, within the organizations we're working in, that when you are, as a person of BME origin, going through a number of experiences, which sometimes you're unsure, so whether these experiences are down to race, if they're down to other things, and you're just looking out for somebody with a little bit more experience who can help you make sense of those. And we looked for those people and couldn't really find them. The other thing is, within the community that we were living in, Croydon area, I usually say AFBE UK is straight out of Croydon, and the people we were looking for at that point, we could see quite a lot of young people looking out for mentors and couldn't find those mentors. And so it was the combination of those two things that led to the creation of AFBE UK. We have a number of objectives. Our objectives are mainly to help young people of all backgrounds, but with a special emphasis on people from BAME backgrounds, into the engineering profession. And we want to help retain some of the people who make it through our universities. We want to help retain them within the industry by helping them in that transition between academia and the world of work. And the third thing we really want to do is raise leaders. So as I was saying just a moment ago, back in 2007, there was a lot of emphasis in the news, mainly around knife crime. And we can all remember it was a comment that the then Prime Minister made about the spate of murders having something to do with Black culture. At the same time, quite a number of organisations, including the Royal Academy of Engineering, were starting to call for more role models within the engineering space. and this was the reason that AFBE started. The main things that drive us are these statistics. So as Jacqueline mentioned earlier, only a very small percentage of the engineering workforce is female, but also within the minority community, 31.5%, going by the 2019 Key Facts report, 31.5% of the engineering workforce, or of the UK undergrads, are from a BAME background. But if you look at the workforce, that's 7.8%. And actually only 6% of that number can be referred to as a product of the system. And there are many reasons for that. I will draw your attention to a report that was done by the University of Oxford, the Nuffield Centre for Social Investigation, just last year, and they published these results. In their field experiment, they created 3,200 fictitious applications for real jobs. And in order to correct for things like, foreign language or foreign qualifications, they made sure that every minority applicant among those 3,200 were people who were either born in Britain or had arrived in Britain by the age of 6. This project, the GEM project, was also carried out in other European countries. And the results were quite shocking because they were looking out for what they referred to as a callback rate. So how many of the applications that go out actually receive a response. And what they found was that for most minorities, there was 60% more applications had to be sent out for a minority compared to a majority group, which is the white group. The worst stats were for people of Pakistani or Nigerian origin, who would have to send out 80% more applications for jobs. And the jobs that they were looking at were over a wide range of fields. They also looked at engineering as one of those fields. And so the results showed that there is still a lot more to do. A few years ago, AFBE had actually done some research work, and what we did was we used all of the results that were available to us, and what we tried to do was chart the course of a typical BME engineer from the very early stages of the education all the way to the professional or senior management level. What we found is that at the sort of ordinary level and A levels, although the percentages were low, they were comparable to the majority group. The issue came when it came to going to universities. What we found is that although you have similar percentages going to university, you have a much smaller percentage going into what you refer to as the higher tariff or Russell Group universities. And those universities create the best chance of making a career in engineering because they provide a lot of the support that's needed. And you have a very small percentage that go to those universities. And that is one of the problems. So what you then find is that by the time these young people or engineers graduate, they find that they have to wait at least 6 months longer than their counterparts before they get into work. And this is a stat that I was given this presentation at an operator about a year ago, and one of the people that was listening said that it just resonated with her experience. She'd graduated from UCL with a first-class degree in chemical engineering, and she had also gone on to Cambridge and come out top of her class, and she still had to wait quite a long time before she could get into work. So there is a gap there. And once we start to look at the how many of those people actually progress into leadership roles, that number gets smaller and smaller. So there are major gaps there, and there is still a lot more to do. So AFBE's programs have tended to focus around these 3 goals. We want to get more of those young people from minority ethnic communities, very often from lower socioeconomic background as well, into the industry. So we want to attract more people. We want to retain people, because what tends to happen is after graduation, when people have waited for too long before getting into work and can't find work, the tendency is that they move on to other industries. So we want to prevent that. And we want to raise more leaders, because what we've sort of realized is that the leadership piece is very much tied into the attraction and the retention piece. People tend to become what they can see. So these are the programs that we run. We run a Next Gen or Make Engineering Hot, which is aimed at sort of 9 to 18-year-olds. We run the Transition and the Real Projects program, which is just preparing students for the world of work, preparing them for getting into work, and preparing them for the world of work. We run a mentoring program, and more recently, we've been running a leadership program. And this is just a broad infographic of the type of work that we've been doing. And, you know, the work that we've been doing covers about 8,500 people across the UK. We've been successful in employing or involving about 33 employers and institutions in the work that we do. Our Make Engineering Hot program has benefited more than 3,500 people, and we are starting to see more and more of those people make the transition into the industry, and that's really encouraging for us. The Transition program, which first started here, it's made in Aberdeen, and it's now been practiced in more than 7 universities across the UK, and 3,500 students have benefited from it. And we did a survey a few years ago where we found out that quite a high number of those people were able to find a job within 6 months, and that number went higher when you look at over a 12-month period. I'll just end with this story, because this is one story that's really sort of is a story that my sister told me about one of the people that came to our program, and it's a story that's really encouraged me. A few months ago, Nikia was running a Make Engineering Hot sort of STEM program, and she was trying to get some people to come over to volunteer. So there were 2 guys, Alex and Noah, who'd come over to volunteer for this program. And whilst Nikia was trying to explain to them what the Make Engineering Hot program was about, these were 2 people who had benefited from our transition program, who were now working in industry. And while she was explaining to them what the Make Engineering Hot program was about, they paused and they said to her, "Oh, I thought you knew who we were." And Nikia was thinking, what are they talking about? And it turns out that when they were in school, these 2 boys had come to a program that AFBE ran back in 2012. And that had inspired them to get into the industry and to go and study engineering courses. They'd study the engineering courses, they'd come out with their degrees, and they were helped by AFBE to actually get into work. And they were coming at this point to pay it back. And those are the kinds of stories that just keep us going and encourage us. So I'm just going to stop there, and I'm looking forward to hearing what the other speakers have to say today.